Everybody's got a sidewalk to walk on. Everybody's got a road to go down. Everybody's got somewhere to get to. Everybody, everywhere we're going down. Everybody's got a sidewalk to walk on. Everybody's got a road to go down. Everybody's got somewhere to get to. Everybody, everywhere we're going down. Welcome, everybody. Is everybody doing okay? All right. Thank you so much for coming and joining us tonight. My name is Mia. This is my friend Brandon. And there's a whole busload of people, and we are both coming good. We're so happy to be with you this evening. Thank you to our friend Abe for helping us organize this. And listen, we like to go around the country spreading some good news, and that good news is change is coming. It's coming, y'all. We just gotta stick with it and stick together and be unified. So one thing that we like to do is sing. Singing makes us happy and it brings us together. And this is a little song we like to sing. And I know it sounds like a lot of words, but Brandon and I, we're gonna take care of most of them. But if you could just help us out by singing, Everybody's Got. Because you know we all have the same kind of stuff, right? So everybody's got. Whenever that comes around, we just want you to yell that out. You think they could do that for me?
Yes.
All right. All right, here we go. Everybody's got a sidewalk to walk on. Everybody's got a road to go down. Everybody's got somewhere to get to. Everybody, everywhere we're going down. Everybody's got a sidewalk to walk on. Everybody's got a road to go down. Everybody's got somewhere to get to. Everybody, everywhere we're going down. Come on.
Everybody's got
Come on, let me hear you. Sidewalk to walk on.
Everybody's got
Yeah. A road to go down. Come on.
Everybody's got
Somewhere to get to. Everybody, everywhere we're going down. Everybody's got a sidewalk to walk on. Everybody's got a road to go down. Everybody's got somewhere to get to. Everybody, everywhere we're going down. Everybody, everywhere we're going down. Everybody, everywhere we're going down.
Well, hello to all of you.
Hello.
How are we doing here?
Hello to all of you. My name is Doug Padgett, and I'm the executive director of this little project called Vote Common Good. Hey, and the reason we're here is because, as Mia said, 61 days from now, 61 days from today, change is coming. And I got to tell you, we said if we're going to go somewhere to encourage some people to do something about the political situation in this country, where do you need to go? And you need to go to Ohio.
Yes.
And by the way, when you come to Ohio, you absolutely come to Columbus. Now, we're going to Cincinnati tomorrow, but that's not what matters to us. It matters to us that we're in Columbus today. And it doesn't matter to us that we were in York, Pennsylvania a couple of days ago and up in Pittsburgh, and that this little crowd walked its way from Charlottesville all the way to Washington, D.C., 130 miles to join the Black Lives Matter March on Washington. We're going to drive all over this country as we've been doing, especially in 6 swing states, and coming back here to Ohio, because we think that it really matters that all people, but especially people of faith, join the community of common good and do something to stop this president of the United States. Now look, we're not just trying to be mean to old Donald Trump. We're not running around trying to convince people that you should think badly about Donald Trump. Look, you watch the man, you see the man, you hear the man, you read the man. He does all the work for you. He's like a self-cleaning oven. We don't have to convince you that he's unfit for office. We are here not to tell you he's bad. We're here to remind you that you know what good is,
Right.
that you know what the common good is, that you know how to join together in that common good. And we're here not to ask Republicans to stop being Republicans. And even though I'm a Democrat, I'm not here to make you into a Democrat. We're here to ask Republicans and Democrats just not to vote for this guy so we can all have a fresh start when it comes around to Election Day. Now look, I believe we live in historic times, and you're all here for your own reasons. Maybe a friend invited you, maybe this is your church, I don't know, maybe you're just driving by and saw this, maybe you're online watching tonight because somebody tagged a friend in it. Whatever you've got going on has brought you here. I'll tell you, I'm here because I know that we live in a historic moment. We live in a time of a social reorganizing, of racial reckoning, and of a political correction. We live in a moment where some things need to change, and I'll tell you that as a pastor, as a Christian, it's hard for me traveling around the country having to talk about the failures of this administration, because it can sound like we're just taking this personally. It can sound like I've got a personal beef with Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, as a Christian, I believe that every person is the light of the world, the salt of the earth, the beloved child of God. That includes Donald Trump. But not every light of the world should be the President of the United States, and this man is totally out of his league in this job, and we want him to let his dim little light shine somewhere else after January 21st and stop bothering the good people of this country.
Yes.
So what we're wanting to do is to invite you into this historic moment and to join us in this. Now, we're going to recruit you tonight. We're not going to leave you here without a little marching orders. It's going to be part religious revival, part political gathering, part recruitment effort. So we hope you leave here with a yard sign and some postcards and a little bit of joy in your heart and some new friends and some new collaborators for what can happen here. Because you're the kind of people we want to be around. Here's what I'm getting at. A lot of people tell us no. We've been traveling the whole country. We've been in almost all 50 states. We're going to be traveling this thing all the way through Election Day, and a lot of people tell us no. Sometimes churches tell us no because they say, look, we just get a little uncomfortable talking about politics in the church environment. And then sometimes our political friends, well, they tell us no because, frankly, they get a little nervous when the religious people show up because we all know that can go bad. And then sometimes we talk to the organizers, and they're like, well, we don't really know who your group is. So we hear no a lot. We're used to no. We got kicked out of a Goodwill parking lot, so many people tell us no. But then there's people who tell us yes. And that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at a bunch of yes men and women that are sitting around here. You're the kind of people, and kids, you're the kind of people that say yes. And we're excited that you're willing to say yes to be here tonight. And I'll tell you somebody else who said yes to us. And this was on a real, like, a friend of a friend sort of thing. Some friends called Pastor Rich Johnson from this church and said, hey, would you be willing to host this? And you know who said yes to us? Pastor Rich did. Where did he disappear? There he is, right there. Pastor Rich. He said yes to us. Give him an applause, would you? Thank you for having us. Come on up here and give us a good welcome. Now, you're going to notice that all of us come up here with our own little speaking shower caps. So we're trying to figure out how we can be COVID safe. We appreciate all of you spreading out. We appreciate you wearing your mask. We appreciate the social distancing, being outside. But then we all come up here talking to each other. So what we do is we take these little shower caps and we put them on and we take them with us and we bring them back. And it's our way to try to do all that we can. And Rich, thanks for doing all this with us and for sharing this with us tonight.
Thank you, Doug. Really appreciate you being here. And welcome to Vote Common Good. Thank you all for being here at our place. And for all of the other folks that said yes to being in the building today. Or actually the parking lot, not really the building. But who needs a building when it comes to trying to persuade ones to consider their vote in this year's election? Not us, right? Right. We'll take it indoors, outdoors, online, or what have you. Now, I don't claim any particular political party. I'm not a registered Democrat or Republican. I'm not a libertarian or an independent. And if you do a search on me and find out that I am, please let me know so that we can correct that mistake. For me, not claiming a political party provides me with the freedom to vote for whomever has been consistent with representing my values of justice, mercy, and humility, regardless of any affiliation. I also, though, don't write in candidates. You know that kind of style, right? Especially ones that have little to no chance of actually winning an election. As much as I believe that Jesus is my king, I don't think I'm voting him in to be president of these United States and obtain the Oval Office. In fact, I don't do so because I believe Jesus is more likely to be identified with the prisoner that we prefer to ignore, the immigrant we might prefer to nationalize, the sick we might prefer to take care of themselves, the marginalized we might persuade to pull themselves up from their own bootstraps. In Jesus' own words, he says this quite plainly: whatever you've done to the least of these, you've done it also to me. And our president and his executive administration have gotten the scripture twisted around. Somehow they've convinced Christ-loving community Christians that Jesus is more likely to be seen in the face of the wealthy, the well-off, the prideful, the offensive, and even the self-righteous. And instead of becoming a United States of America, we become a more divided nation along every criteria imaginable, culturally, religiously, and racially. And so in less than 70 days, I am casting my vote for common good. A vote that will be more for love and not hate. A vote that will be for courage and not fear. For hope and not despair. For unity and not division. For truth and not a lie. So as little as the numbers may be here, let's make our voices big and profound for what we stand for, and not all of the little things that they try to persuade us to stand against. Amen. Let's show them who we are for and who we truly represent. Is that all right today? Can I get an amen from somebody? Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Next up, come on down. Got to take my little mask off. Yeah.
Thank you, Pastor. Yes. And thank you, everybody, for being here with us today. And I know you can't see me, but I'm smiling. I'm smiling, and that's one of the things that I've had to get used to with this whole pandemic is I'm used to smiling at people and going into the grocery store and just smiling at people when they walk by. But now people can't tell you're smiling. So today I want to give you the permission to do something else since they can't see your smile. So I kind of like to do like this. Just tap on my heart a little bit. If you walk past somebody and you're just like, hey, you know, that's a little smile. You don't have to say anything unless you want to. We don't have to, you know, we can't hug each other right now either. Isn't that crazy? But, you know, I'm gonna share that with you. If you like it, you can use it. You're broken down and tired from living life on a merry-go-round. In spite of all the hate, rise up and do it 1,000 times again. Ohio. Yeah. My name is Mia. This is Mario. Thank you so much. I'd like to welcome to the stage now a beloved member of Vote Common Good, Genesis B.
Thank you, Mia. Can we give Mia and Mario another round of applause? Oh, we got fans from the road.
Yes.
My name is Genesis B. I am a hip-hop artist and poet and painter from Biloxi, Mississippi. Yeah. I don't have a southern twang anymore. I was in Brooklyn for about 10 years, so now it's like a Brooklyn/Mississippi accent. So the last 5 years I've been fighting to remove the Confederate emblem from the Mississippi state flag. That's where my activism has lied. Thank you. And I'm very proud to say on January the 30th of 2020, Mississippi took that flag down.
Yes.
I didn't think I would see it happen so soon. But I would like to acknowledge the spirit of George Floyd for creating an atmosphere in which change was urgent. So I can't acknowledge that victory without acknowledging him. So I'm known kind of for my controversy in my work and my words and my theatrics with my hip hop. But I see that there are some youngsters here, so I'm going to keep it as clean as possible. So before I read this first poem for y'all, I have a question for you, and it's not rhetorical. I definitely do expect an answer, and there's no wrong answer. So if Trump disappeared right now, you get alert on your phone, the president has disappeared, no one knows where he's at. What would America do?
Deal with Pence.
Keep going, deal with Pence. No wrong answer. What would America do if Trump disappeared right now, y'all? Someone said had a Zoom party.
Half the country trying to find him.
Huh?
Half the country.
Pray. We're gonna need it. That's right. There's no wrong answer. Just curious to know what y'all thought. I was thinking about this question, and then I wrote a poem about it. So, if Trump disappeared today, what would America do? Would there still be all this Twitter commotion? Would America still worship money? Would we still pollute the oceans? Would we still imprison black men and shoot them down with no emotion? Would women still be the smartest in the room and still get passed up for promotions? What would America do if Trump no longer exists? Would we still destroy the planet for profit? Would we still have private prisons, the new slave trade in auction? Would men still write laws dictating what women do with our bodies, stripping away anatomical autonomy? Would we still shame women who use sex as commodity, but not shame men who buy sex and pornography? Would we still turn a blind eye to all this hypocrisy? What would America do if it was up to you? Would you finally purge law enforcement of white supremacist bigots? Would y'all do that? Yeah, maybe. Would we still keep equal rights from poor whites and immigrants? Would preachers still use the pulpit to pimp our communities? Would boys still be boys? Not you. Would boys still be boys raping and assaulting with impunity? Would we still ignore the killing of trans folks? Because this is where America stands, folks. To know what would America do, I ask, what has America done? Well, for one, we massacred our native population. From the blood of black slaves, we built the richest of nations. We cried war before. We cried wolf with terrorist threats. You remember weapons of mass destruction? Y'all remember that? How quickly we forget. I've seen America burn crosses on the lawns of my father. I've seen America separate mothers and toddlers. I've seen America vote for men whose only moral is money. Men who appeal to the racism and sexism of my beautiful Christian country. So we search for a savior to save us from the big orange goblin. Yeah. Some magical Democrat that can solve all our nation's problems. But Trump is just a symptom of a money-hungry system that never had regard for the truth, no regard for the troops, no regard for the planet, and no regard for the youth. Trump was born into this, just like you and I. Trump is as American as apple pie. So I won't ask what would America do. I know what America's done. Instead, I'll ask, what can America be if we step up in the days to come? Can America be one nation under God, indivisible? Can true freedom and compassion be our true principles? Because these words that I write are not out of spite. I once dreamt of the day that you and I could unite and fight the plights affecting all our lives, like healing our children and fighting addiction to alcohol and prescription, resisting government monopolies and wicked foreign policies made to benefit the rich while killing us with poverty. Doesn't matter your sexual preference. We could build a better tomorrow for all our descendants, where we use the common good for the good of the collective. A place where pharmaceutical riches does not result in more sickness. A place where corporations have constraint and cannot buy our politicians. Where we use the money that we use to wage war to heal Mother Earth or buy houses for the poor. Maybe. It's just a thought, y'all. A place where all synagogues are safe, where our Muslim brothers and sisters are looked upon with grace. A place where young girls can walk the streets without being harassed because young boys are taught to understand the traumatizing effect that that has. What can America be? Can it be a place where someone who looks like me and loves like me can finally feel safe and free? Where black and brown women are not minimized and the image of us outside reflects the power of our insides, our potential, our resilience, our imagination, and our brilliance. Because my ancestors fought for me to have a voice. They fought for me to have a vote. So I cast my ballot and I talk my ish. I honor them by doing both. Because they knew what America could be, but it starts with you and it starts with me, because although he spews lies and his actions show cowardice, assigning that much power to any man will eventually render you
Powerless.
That's right. So don't ask, what would America do? Ask, what can America be? And the answer to that question, my friends, is solely up to you and me. Genesis B. Thank you.
Genesis B. One more time for Genesis B.
Yes.
I'm going to just say it again so you remember her name. I want you to remember her name. Yes, yes, yes. Man, I wish, I know she's not in the school system, but I wish my political science teacher was something like that.
Amen.
That's cool. So, again, my name is Mia. This is Mario. I'm a songwriter and a singer. And during these times, what artists do is what artists do. We write, we draw, we sing, we do stuff like that. And I wrote this song because I needed something to lift me out of this darkness. And I wanted to share it with everybody, in case you need a little something. It's going to be released on the Resistance Revival Chorus album. I'm in a chorus. That'll be October 16th. You can find that up everywhere you get your music. It's called I Hope. And I don't know, maybe America is ready to use the common good for the good of the collective. Let's see. I hope. How could we ever come to this, you say? Our lives do not matter, and justice has no face. To study war and anger burns the fabric of our state, sends a message to our neighbors that we've fallen from the fray. It's a long road to walk on, and I you'll be there, but I hope. Dream on, dreamers, when the promises fade, it can only leave room for the great. That's y'all. And when you long for a hero, no need to look around. You will be one and the same. I said, fight on, brother. All you need to stand is the power that's placed in your hand. Yeah, yeah. And watch your sister. You never know. Lift the something and carry us home. 'Cause it's a long road to walk on. And I don't know where it ends, but I hope. And when I'm too tired to carry on, I don't know if we'll be there, but I hope we've come too far now to turn around, and we won't back down. I hope, and you might say, we'll never see the end. No, no, well, I don't know, my friends. I hope. I hope. For me, I hope.
Give it up again for Mia and Mario. My name is Rob Ryerson. I'm a pastor from Fayetteville, Arkansas. And it's great to be with you tonight. I don't know about you, but I woke up the day after Election Day in 2016 just completely and utterly horrified at what we had done as a country. Just couldn't believe that this was the decision we had made. And I felt the anger and the fear, and I also felt a lot of shame about it as well. Not because of the way I voted, but because of the role that my tribes had played in making that happen. You see, I'm a pastor of a predominantly white evangelical church, and 81% of white evangelicals around the country voted for Donald Trump. My tribe, the people that I am a part of, the people had taught me about things like love and humility and character and justice, were in fact responsible for this election result. But it was more than just white evangelicals. The other tribe that I'm a part of is I'm a Republican, and just utterly horrified that my party was responsible for foisting this upon the country. See, I grew up, I've been a Republican my whole life. I grew up, remember when the Apostle Paul said that he was a Pharisee of the Pharisees? You remember that? I grew up kind of a Republican of the Republicans. I had, when I was a teenager, I had pictures on my wall of autographed pictures of politicians. I had Bob Dole, and I had Al D'Amato, if you remember him. He was senator from New York. I had this unknown congressman from Georgia that had just entered Congress. Nobody had ever heard of him. His name is Newt Gingrich. Had his picture on my wall. I used to skip school so I could call into the Rush Limbaugh show. Yeah. I told you, I'm a Republican of the Republicans. Pastor Rich is like, you're really a Republican. Yeah. I went to teenage Republican school as like a summer camp kind of thing. Because apparently I was a really big dork in high school. I think that's what I'm telling you. But I mean, this was so deeply ingrained in me. This is what I was always a part of. This is what my family was about. This is what my church was about. It's what I was about. So I was utterly horrified when my party chose someone whose cruelty and whose corruption so profound, so contrary to all of the values that I thought that we espoused. And not just that, but also that my party chose someone who I was pretty sure then, and am absolutely positive about now, was completely and utterly incompetent to do the job of the presidency.
Right.
So I had this feeling that I had to do something. I woke up the day after Election Day and I was like, my tribes are responsible for this, and so I've got to do something about it. And I had no idea what that meant. And a couple months after that, I lived with that feeling. Kind of a couple months after that, I came home from the office one day and my wife held her phone out at me. And she said, she had listened to a podcast that day about this organization that was recruiting people to run for Congress. And she held her phone out at me when I came through the door and she said, "You've got to listen to this. You've got to do this." I don't know if you ever had the day where you get up, you have breakfast, you go to work, you have some lunch, you just a normal day, and then you go to bed that night thinking, I might run for Congress. It's kind of a bizarre experience, but that's what I ended up doing. I launched this complete long shot candidacy, this grassroots campaign against one of the most powerful Republicans in Washington, D.C., one of Donald Trump's biggest supporters, and I ran against him as a progressive Republican. Do you know what it means to be a progressive Republican? It means nobody likes you. That's what it means. It means nobody likes you. Including him. But I launched that campaign and I ran that campaign and spoiler alert, I didn't win. But I did learn a lot along the way. And I also feel like I found my voice.
Amen.
And now I'm a Republican who drives around the country in a big bus campaigning for Democrats. Because this is what Donald Trump has done to us.
Right.
This is what he's done. We ask people here at Vote Common Good to wake up to the reality of what's happening in our country. And Genesis talked about that, like not assuming that Donald Trump is the only problem we've got. Maybe that he could very well be a symptom of the problems. To wake up to that reality. And then we ask people to speak up. Because once you've realized that this is going on, you can't be silent anymore. And I feel like I found my voice through my campaign, and I want to encourage you to find your voice. I want to encourage you to be people who, in the next 61 days between now and Election Day, are willing to speak up about the reality of what's happening in our country and the stakes that are in place at this election. To speak up and to do so recognizing that if you are willing to speak up, you might be the first person in your family to say, hey, listen, I'm not voting for the re-election of Donald Trump. And if your family is anything like mine, that might be a pretty big statement to make. You might be the first one in your church, you might be the first one in your group of friends or on your Facebook feed, but when you speak up and are willing to say that I'm not gonna vote to re-elect Donald Trump, what you do is you create space for other people in your life to encourage them to speak up as well.
Yes.
You remember the last scene in Dead Poets Society? You remember that movie?
Yes.
When like the one kid gets up on the desk and says, "Oh, Captain, my Captain." And what happens after he does that? There's a cascade of others who join him. And what we're asking you to do is to be the one in your circle of friends, in your church, in your family, to speak up and to say, this is the way it is, and I'm willing to say this, and to create space for others to add their voices to yours. Now, I'm going to be real honest with you. If you do that, you can expect a backlash. I mean, you've been on Facebook, right? You know how it is. Back in February, I had the opportunity to write a column that got published by Time on Time.com. As a pastor, an evangelical, as a Republican, as a person who's pro-life, asking Republicans and evangelicals and pro-life people to join me in voting for whoever the Democratic nominee for the presidency is here in November. And I wish I could tell you that I got hundreds of, way to go, Rob, that's awesome kind of responses. I got some of those, but the majority of what I got was literally hundreds of emails and Facebook messages and direct messages and even voicemails, because somehow they found my phone number, of some of the most vile and disgusting and mean-spirited vitriol that you couldn't even imagine. So much so that I couldn't even play the voicemails for you. The insults, the death threats, and most of them would start with something like this. I'm a follower of Jesus, or I'm a Christian, and you are an expletive. It's going to take courage to speak up. It's going to take courage. And I want to encourage you tonight to have that courage to do it. Because the most important things in life that we do are things that are hard. And I also want to encourage you that when you have those Republicans in your life that have a change of heart, that realize, I really made a mistake in 2016. I shouldn't have done that, and I'm not going to do it again. I want to encourage you not to, cross your arms and say, hey, I told you so. Where were you 4 years ago? Because that's the very kind of attitude that pushes people away. And this, more than ever, is a time when we need to have open arms welcoming people who are waking up whenever they're waking up. We need to encourage that. So we need to wake up, we need to speak up, we need to stand up. And I have the privilege of introducing to you tonight Gary Tyack, who is running for Franklin County prosecutor. He is standing up and putting himself on the line and on the ballot so he can represent you. Gary, come and speak to us for a few minutes.
I grew up here in Columbus, attended the Columbus Public Schools, came out of high school being convinced I was going to be a member of the ordained clergy, and spent a couple years doing training for that. And then the church I was a member of didn't really see race issues the way I did. They thought that Martin Luther King was some sort of conspirator controlled by somebody out of the country. So partway through college, I changed my mind about being an ordained minister. Well, at that time, it was the height of the Vietnam War, which meant that I was going to the Army. And so I did spend 3 years in the Army and did a tour of Vietnam. Came back out, never thought I'd live through Vietnam. So then I had to try to figure out what my life was going to be. And I had worked 2 summers in a settlement house in the inner city of Chicago. And that was part of what brought me to having better insight as to what the world was like. I saw people who were working 2 jobs and not getting anywhere. I saw people who were doing all sorts of special things and were being criticized for it. So I went to law school because I knew that there were some things I could affect on law school. And I never really was a believer in the death penalty, frankly. And so I ended up I ended up getting licensed to practice law and to also to handle the death penalty cases here in Ohio. And that's part of what my life was like. So, and I have been fortunate. I started practicing law in 1975, and none of my clients have ever been executed. Now, I have to do the confession, and that is that one of them has been on death row since 1987, but he is nowhere near death row, and it was the classic problem you have. Here was a black man accused of killing a white woman, and his real problem was that the police department here in Franklin County thought that he had killed a detective's daughter and detective's grandchild, and so they were going to try and get this guy executed any way they could. Well, he's on death row, and we've kept him away from that. But it was part of the problem. My opponent for prosecutor tells everybody, oh, he's going to end the death penalty here in Franklin County. See, the problem with his theory is the voters of Ohio and the legislators of Ohio pretty much ended the death penalty years ago. The statute we have, the small counties can't afford a death case, whether it's Benton County or any other small counties. They can't afford them, so they don't have them. The only places that ever have the death penalty right now are the big counties. And here in Franklin County, out of the last 12 times my opponent has tried to get somebody killed by the approval of the jurors, 11 times the jurors have just said no. And he spent millions and millions of dollars trying to get something that the voters of Franklin County don't believe in anymore. So my job is to win this election, and then probably his promise to the people of Franklin County that I will end the death penalty in Franklin County will be true for at least 4 years. I need your vote for that to happen, and I need you to think through, why do we have a death penalty in Ohio anymore when we have none in Europe to speak of? They've all done away with it. All sorts of other places have done away with it. So if I win in November, and I've had a supporter tell me, stop saying that, saying when you win in November, yeah, the death penalty will probably be over in Franklin County for 4 years, but we'll all be better off. Thank you.
Our friend, if you know Abe here in the red shirt. That's right. Abe has called me a few times, and I've had the honor of playing music during this pandemic time on some live Zoom calls for vigils that have been held during executions. And sometimes it's tough to know what to say, what songs to sing. You can only sing Amazing Grace so many times before those words even don't comfort, you know. So a few weeks ago, this is a tune I wrote for that. Where is this justice? The justice we need. Oh, where all want to see. And I marched in the street, and I began to see. I saw the justice we need is the justice that needs me. And where, oh, where is the healing? The healing we need. Oh, where is the healing we all want to see? And when I turn on my TV, I see so much disease, and the healing we need is the healing that needs me. And where is the peace that we need? Tell me where, oh, where is the peace that we all want to see? So I phoned an old friend. I said, I'm sorry for the grief. I said, the peace that we need is the peace that needs me. I said, the healing we need is the healing that needs me. And I know that the justice we need is the justice that needs me.
And that is Brandon Pfeiffer with a Black Lives Matter hat on that we picked up over there in Washington, D.C. And justice needs you, and I'll tell you what else. We need you. This is our Harvey Milk moment of the night, and if you understand that joke, we appreciate that you do. It's our Harvey Milk moment because there are 4 things that get us around this country. Now, here's a little hint behind me about what 3 of them are. 3 of the things that get us around, of our 4 things that get us around the country are, say it with me now, faith, hope, and love. You know what the 4th is?
Money.
Diesel. Diesel moves that big bus. See, we live in that bus. That's got 12 bunks in it. That's where we live. That's where we eat. That's where we sleep. That's how we get around. That's how we drive. Now, here's the part of this part of the night. We want you in the tank with us. We're going to get you in that tank with us. So if you make a donation over there at that table, that turns into the fuel that drives us around this country that allows us to do this all over. We really do need you. You might say to yourself, hey, how do you all fund an effort like this? And I got to tell you, I'm not even kidding. It's from viewers like you. This is our PBS moment of the night. So it's from viewers like you. It really is. So if you can make a $10, $20, $100, $500, $10,000, $1 million donation, we'd be glad to take it. If you're on Venmo, you can do it on Venmo. Vote Common Good. If you like PayPal, if you have a credit card, we take credit cards. We still take cash. So if you've got a bunch of coins around that you can't seem to spend anywhere, we'll take those. We'll take whatever you've got. We'd love to have you join with us in this effort. But not only because we need your money, right? We're not just trying to hit you up for dollars. But if people ask how we fund all this, you know what they accuse us of? This thing was parked in New York City, and a guy walks up to the bus and looks at it and says, well, who's paying for all this? Is this one of those George Soros funded things? We get that all the time. Everybody thinks George Soros funds us. Look, George Soros doesn't fund us. Now, if you know George Soros, please pass along his name because we'd love to have George Soros funded. That'd be fine with me, but he doesn't. But we're not just here to hit you up for dollars. We actually want to take you with us. So we want to invite you to a couple things. Get a hat, get a button, take a sticker, take a t-shirt. You know why? Because this is no time to tell other people to be quiet. This is a time to tell each other to speak up, right? It's sure, people are going to drive by, they're going to honk their horns when they see Vote for a Change on Election Day. We had a bunch of protesters at our event that tried to stop us and shout us down. Absolutely. And we are not going to travel this country and tell other people to be quiet. We're going to travel this country and tell this whole choir of voters on November 3rd that it's time to find a new song and to rise up and to sing that song. So that's what we'd like to ask you to do. So we'd love you to take one of these yard signs home with you and put it out in your yard. And don't just take one, take 2 or 3 or 4 and give them to your neighbors. They say, faith not fear, hope not hate, love not lies, or if you like the other version, love for all. Put one of those in your yard and then put a candidate next to it and tell people that yes, you're voting for a candidate, but you're also voting for something more.
Yes.
That there's more on this ballot box, that there's more going on. Now look, we told you it was 61 days till November 3rd, but here in Ohio, you know you start voting 33 days from now. On October 6th, go down to your polling place, vote early. Go to vote.org or go to your Secretary of State's website, get that ballot sent to you, remind your friends, get their ballots. As we love to say, vote common good, vote early and vote often. Just don't do it in the same election, but vote early, vote in every election when they come, right? We'd love to have you do that, and we'd love to have you put one of these in your yard. Now here's something even more bold we'll invite you to do. Over there at that table. In fact, Raquel, could you grab one of the, I'm going to introduce you to Raquel. Raquel, yeah, would you bring up one of those? Now, if you see Raquel and Brady back there at the table when they're all done, thanks, Raquel. All of a sudden it's turned into like a boxing match or something. Sorry about that. Thank you. I forgot to grab one of these. We have this postcard campaign. Now, here's the thing. On these postcards, in this pack, you get 15 postcards, and you also get a list of names of faith voters. This packet has people in Pennsylvania. If you want to sign up back there, we'll send you people from Ohio. Faith voters from this very district. 15 names to go with 15 postcards. The front of this card says, faith not fear, hope not hate, love not lies, just like the sign. After this election, what will remain? Now, some of you get that play on words because you know that the Apostle Paul writes that bit about faith, hope, and love, and in the end, these are the 3 that will remain, right? And then it says, join me in stopping the re-election of Donald Trump on Election Day. Now, here's the magic. The backside is where you write a personal note. You fill it out with the address of a faith voter in this area, and then you mail this postcard to them, and we're going to flood 15,000 postcards into this district so that faith voters are being asked by other faith voters, because right now you can't go door to door and nobody answers their phone, but you know what everyone does? We all still check the mail. And everybody gets a little bit excited. And you get a postcard, and you get a postcard with something personal written on the other side, oh, you're going to read it. And maybe you want to put your name on it. And maybe you want to sign up for another 15. And maybe you want to get 15 friends to do 15 cards and do a postcard writing night on Zoom, or, I don't know, have a wine party and get people together and write your postcards early and drink your wine later, or however you want to do it. But send these postcards out. And we really do know that it matters, because the one thing we know, we're doing polling of faith voters in 6 swing states, Ohio being one of them. We're paying attention to what changes their vote. You know what it is? Caring about kindness. And being asked by someone who cares for you that you would change your vote. You're not here to change anyone's mind. Their minds have already changed. They know that voting for Donald Trump doesn't sit well with them anymore.
Right.
What they need is a community to join in. So say it on Facebook, say it to a friend, say it in a mailbox. Join me. Ask them. We live in this world that's being so pulled apart. And you have no idea how powerful it is for someone to say, come on in and join us. So would you join us in this effort? We'd love to see you back there at the table. You can do it anyway. Share it with your friends. Get them all involved. We're here to sort of spread this story and spread this word, and we're doing everything we can, travel around and get on the news and do biggie things and do little things and send out postcards, because we know that all of it matters, and we'd really love to have your support. So if you'd consider supporting us, joining this movement, we're going to count you in on it. And in fact, is there anybody right now that already knows you're going to take postcards with you home with you? Why don't you come up here and grab, why don't you, well, no, I've dropped those to the ground. All right, yeah, you can. Thank you. See, there's one right there. This is turned into an altar call. This is the Billy Graham moment of the night, so come on forward and grab your postcards. Hey, I want to introduce you. Every time we do these events, we invite people locally. Like, we travel with our little band of Vote Common Do-Gooders. But then we invite people from every city we're in, because it's the best parts of the nights for us. right? Because we hear each other every night, but it's so fun to hear from the people that are here. And it's my privilege to introduce my friend, Elena. And as she makes her way up, she's going to tell you that we were together in Texas, and then we were together in, I don't know, like North Carolina, and then we were together in Milwaukee, and then we were together in, I don't know, hey, we've been together a lot, but I've never been to your hometown, and it's so nice to have you. Thanks for being with us tonight. And everyone, sorry, I talked over the applause. Would you give her another applause? This is Elena.
Thanks, Doug. Great to be here with you all. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. I'm gonna take this off. Woo.
Yeah.
I only agreed because I wanted this shower cap thing. It is. So some of you know that I live here in Columbus, and I run a progressive evangelical organization called Red Letter Christians, which is why I end up hanging out with Doug a lot. But I also do full-time work as an executive director of a religious pro-choice organization. Lots of fun. But tonight I am taking off those hats, and I will be speaking to you as a private citizen. Yes, because, of course, I too am joining the bandwagon. I'll tell you why I will not and cannot vote for Trump in good conscience. But most of all, I really want to speak to the 81% of evangelicals, particularly the 62% of white evangelical women who voted for Trump. And I want to tell you about how Jesus ruined my life. You see, I grew up in southern Ohio, in Chillicothe, in a Republican family. My dad was in the military. And I ended up attending white evangelical churches, so Assemblies of God, and I ended up going to Vineyard Columbus, right down the road here in Westerville. And that's where I learned all about white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus. Y'all know that Jesus? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Well, I was told that if I wanted to fit in and follow this Jesus, it meant that I had to vote Republican, and that I was supposed to love the sinner and hate the sin of those who had abortions or were homosexual. It meant fire and brimstone and saving people from an eternity in hell. And it was really appealing, because really what was so comforting is that it meant having certainty about who was in and out, who was saved and who was not, who to vote for, who not to vote for. Basically, how to not rock the boat in a church that was founded, and I later learned, not by the cross, but founded by the principles of white supremacy. So then, Saul, who later became Paul and was converted, I met Jesus on the road to Damascus, and the scales fell off my eyes, because I finally got to know this brown-skinned Palestinian Jewish Jesus who was born a refugee to an unwed teenage mother. And that Jesus ruined my life. And it shattered everything I thought I knew, or everything I was told to think. And it started me on this journey of putting my faith into action for social justice and the common good. Now, I know we're all on a journey, and we're trying to figure out this thing called life. Yeah, Prince. But so I don't expect you all to follow my same path. But I do want to ask all of you here, particularly those tuning in, those evangelicals, to think deeply about which Jesus you're following. Does your Jesus talk a whole hell of a lot more about abortion and homosexuality than the 2,000 plus verses in the Bible that express Jesus' heart for the poor and oppressed? And would your Jesus condone the racist, sexist, misogynistic actions of our current president? And I want evangelicals to consider how you might be so afraid of hell that you miss the fact that there are so many who are already living in it. It is hell that there are still kids locked in cages on our southern border. Still today, in cages. It is hell that black people fear for their lives from the police, the very people who are supposed to protect our communities. It's hell for queer, femme, trans folks who are routinely erased and excluded by church and society. And it's hell for immigrants like my mother and my Muslim friends who are systematically treated like outsiders. And it's hell that the Trump administration does nothing about any of this, and in fact just makes it worse. So as you head to the polls, early vote, 30-ish days or on November 3rd, I ask you to examine your hearts. How you vote has a lot to say about the Jesus you follow and how much you actually love your neighbor, especially the ones who are living in hell today. But I warn you that if you dig deep and you vote your values and you decide to vote for Trump, chances are that Jesus will also ruin your life. Because like Rob said, you will lose family and friends. You'll be called a snowflake. You'll be maligned and misunderstood. Your faith will be questioned. But I assure you that it's worth it. After all, that's what it means to count the cost and to take up our cross and to follow Jesus.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, Brendan.
We hear it. Excuse me. We here at Vote Common Good, we have a friend named Daniel Dietrich. You might want to take out your phone notepad and write this title down. It's a song called Hymn for the 81%. Like Dan, I also grew up in the church and was mortified after a man bragged about sexually assaulting women, and then they voted that same man into the office of the Presidency of the United States, and it's appalling and terrifying. The same people that taught me what it means to be a good husband or father. So Dan wrote this song, and I'm honored to play it for you. Hymn for the 81%. I grew up in your churches, Sunday morning, evening service, knelt in tears at the foot of a rugged cross. I forgot the words, I'm so sorry. I gotta be honest, I didn't expect this. This is one of those songs that gets me, really gets me. And I practice it as much as I want, and then I get up here and there's a little more emotion than I expected. I grew up in your churches, Sunday morning, evening service, knelt in tears at the foot of a rugged cross. You taught me every life is sacred, feed the hungry and clothe the naked, and I learned from you the highest law is love. See, I believed you when you said I should trust the words in red to guide my steps through a wicked world. And And I thought you'd do the same. So imagine my dismay when I watch you lead the sheep straight to the wolves. You said to love the lost, so I'm loving you now. You said to speak the truth, so I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome and justice roll down. Then they started putting kids in cages, ripping mothers from their babies. And I look to you to speak on their behalf. Oh, but all I heard was silence. Even worse, you justified it, singing glory, hallelujah, raise the flag. And your fear had turned to hatred, but you baptized it with language torn from the pages of the good book. See, you weaponize religion, and you wonder why I'm leaving to find Jesus on the wrong side of your wall. You said to love the lost, so I'm loving you now. You said to speak the truth, so I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome and justice roll down. And come home, know you're better than this. You taught me better than this. So come home, you're better. You taught me better. You said to love the lost, I'm trying to love you now. You said to speak the truth, so I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome and justice roll down. May love overcome and justice roll down. May love overcome and justice roll down. Dan Dietrich, hymn for the 81%.
Thank you, my brother. You know, I'm Jewish, so just want to get that out on the table. And that doesn't matter here, because what matters is that we're all about getting out to vote and getting people out to vote to change things in this country, which we can do. And for those of you who live here in Franklin County, that light right up there is Morris Road, and down that way a mile or two is the Franklin County Board of Elections, and that's where you can start voting in, what was it, 33 days? And I always try to vote on that first day because, you know, look at me, I'm a heart attack waiting to happen, and all of us really are, and I want to make sure my vote is there. Whatever happens, and that's also going to free me to be working on Election Day, whether I'm sometimes, and with all of that, the point is that we have to change things, and we can. Now, I didn't know that I was coming to an anti-death penalty rally tonight, but to hear Gary, do you talk like that every time, or is it just because you saw my shirt today?
What I believe, I tried them for 20 years,
It's amazing. We have a person running. Thank you, Gary. You've got my support. You're going to get my money. You're going to get a sign in my yard if you have a sign. But more important, it's because we need change. And one of the things we need change is locally in so many of these races, and especially with the Franklin County prosecutor, who is the executioner's best friend in this state. And I could tell you stories about that. But our time is limited tonight, and I want to take you, sadly, I'm going to take you into a bit of a deep and dark hole for a moment. Because if you get on I-70 here, and you go about 4 hours west, you're going to get to Terre Haute, Indiana. And Terre Haute, Indiana is where the federal death row lives, and until July 14th, it was also a place where they had not been executing since the days of George W. Bush. And the organization that I run, Death Penalty Action, which was born out of an action I took with Doug Padgett, who's now on our board of advisors, and Shane Claiborne, a bunch of other people. We got arrested protesting the death penalty right before Donald Trump was inaugurated. And we knew then it was only a matter of time before he would start executing people. But we had no idea that the executions would be scripted, not by the Department of Justice or the Attorney General, but by the election campaign, the re-election campaign of Donald Trump. And this is what we have to understand and why it's so important to get change. Because what is happening here is the election campaign is driving this law and order message that we're hearing. And of all the things that you're hearing about, we're going to hear more in a moment about stuff that's happening right here in Columbus. But the timing of these federal executions was set up to be as we get into this election campaign, so that now George W. Bush only had 3 federal executions. Now Donald Trump has had 5. He's got 2 more scheduled. He is the most executing president since the 1950s. And that's what we're going to hear when the death penalty comes up on the debate stage with Joe Biden is, you know, you Democrats are weak. You won't kill people. I'm a Republican. I'm tough on crime. I will execute. That's what Donald Trump is going to say. Mark my words. He hasn't said it yet. I was waiting during the convention speech, but that's what's coming. And 2 more, he ties Harry Truman. 3 more, he ties Eisenhower. And he's always all about the numbers. Who's the biggest, who's the best. And that's what we're going to hear. That's what we're going to see. That's 4 hours down the road. The criminal legal system is so broken in this country and so driven by this law and order idea that they are now actually committing crimes, as they did to kill the first 2 of these 5 that they executed, and as we're about to hear. Because I want you to give a warm welcome to a dear friend of mine, a man I've known for a couple of years now, who has touched my heart and so many others. And then George Floyd happened. And he showed up at some of these demonstrations. And it changed his life, such that he sold his business and changed what he's doing to address police brutality. So I want to invite you to welcome. You might have seen him downtown. You're going to keep seeing him downtown. But he's here tonight to tell us what's happening in our city. Welcome, Abraham Alexander. And thank you for having me tonight as Abe comes up. I just want to say how grateful I am that all of you came out tonight. And, you know, I was just one person, but it was Dan and Elena who helped us find Rich and get us to this space. So thank you all for having us. Thank you all for being here. And Abe Alexander.
I'm the other Abe. It's rare that you'll ever find 2 Abes in the same place at the same time. It's only happened to me one other time in my life, and it was with this man. But I'm comfortable speaking in front of people, but this is a subject that I've never spoke about. So this is like, I'm out of my comfort zone.
That's all right.
And also a little nervous and a little emotional. Like, today I've just been thinking, like, what a summer it's been. Like, I started this summer not as an activist, and I'm for sure finishing this summer as an activist. And I started the protest on the first Saturday in Columbus, or really around the country. And I went down there solely to meet some friends and see what was going on. And what I've experienced this summer, the level of brutality, the level of injustice, the level of lies, it's things that I knew existed because I consider myself like woke. I've been to Selma, Alabama. I took classes in college, but to see the things that I've seen this summer with my own eyes is almost like brings up shame for me. Like, damn, how did that all slide right by me? How did I've heard this? People have been using their voice. People have been crying for this for centuries at this point. And to actually see it firsthand and realize the extent and how bad it is, for me, I feel a moral obligation, a higher power obligation to make a difference, to do something about it, because it's real. And right now in Columbus, for example, what Abe was referring to and what's been really heavy on my heart is many of us have been protesting throughout the summer, day in, day out, showing up to the State House, City Council. I've never seen one single person throw a brick. I've never seen one single person loot a store. I've never seen anyone do any of the things that are constantly put in the media day after day after day. Donald Trump speaks of us, me, my friends, my mother, my friends' mothers, people in the audience here, like my friend Heather and her daughter and Ramon, and they refer to us as rioters and looters and less than and lower than. And those aren't just words. Those are words that have huge implications and are leading to people being hurt and will continue to have people being hurt. And so I've never seen one of those things. I've never met a single person from Antifa. We're people out there that are going into the streets, that are standing up for justice, that want to make a difference, that are saying enough is enough. And right now in Columbus, what's happening is the CPD, if you're watching, Detective Schuler, if you're watching right now, what's happening is they're going back, and who here lives in Columbus? Can you raise your hand? Very, very few people know about this if you're not in the street or like in the know, almost nobody. But what's happening is they're going back and picking out days from the protests. So for example, June 11th and July 11th. I don't know why they chose those days. I don't know if it was a lotto system or what. But they're picking random days and then going back and now issuing warrants for people. So the warrants are for things, such exotic crimes as jaywalking, obstructing traffic, what else is there?
Obstructing the right-of-way.
Obstructing the right-of-way, menacing, which is really hard to follow what that is, inciting a riot. And so, in the last several weeks, they've literally been picking up dozens of people in the street. So just last night, what is happening is someone will be walking down the street downtown, riding their bike, and out of nowhere, you guys heard of this concept of like the jump out boys thing? So they'll just cut someone off, grab them, snatch them out of the environment, and then take them to jail. So this is happening by the dozen here in our city of Columbus, Ohio, with the intention not to enforce the law, not to stop criminal behavior, but stop people using their voice and protesting. So that is what's currently happening, and what I think is going on, or what it appears to me is they want people to give up. And once again, thank you, Detective. The thing they say is, we want this to go away. This thing needs to go away. And so as they've taken people out selectively, it starts to go away. And this is the real thing that's happening in Columbus. And I guess another lesson, the summer's been a lot of lessons I didn't want to learn, and I'm happy I learned. But it's going to take something more from us as people who are standing for truth and justice and love than is at the surface level. So if we think we're just going to go and we're going to vote and it's all going to work out and everyone's just going to have had enough and the ballot's going to fall in our favor, I don't think that's enough. I really don't, because I'll say Donald Trump's side or supporters is willing to go to a level that is not fair or just and is underhanded. So I guess if there's anything I want to say is, like, now is the time to push, and now is the time to spend every day because the implications are massive. Like, I cannot even imagine the possibility of Donald Trump winning, and like, what has he set in motion when he called people rioters and looters and Antifa and terrorists? That is like people who are committed to making a difference, people that are committed to standing for justice, and people that ultimately are standing for love. And so my encouragement, my invitation is like, let's spend every single one of these days giving it everything we have, because it really is all on the line, and lives are on the line. And with that, I'm finished. Thank you. I'm going to get in trouble, I think. But I invite it. So he's one of the detectives that's leading the initiative to squash the protests. So he's the lead in charge guy that's making sure that people are arrested and put away for such nefarious things as jaywalking. So with that, I'm complete. Thank you.
All right, y'all. We are getting ready to close this down. But before we do, can I do another quick piece for y'all?
Yes, please.
Awesome. Thank you, Abe. I just want to say, I know I look young, but I've been in this fight for a very long time. I'm tired at a soul level. And so if you're new to this struggle, we welcome you. Don't feel guilty. Well, feel guilty if you want, but just for a little bit, because we need your energy, we need your action. So thank you and welcome. I'm from Mississippi. I told y'all that we had a recent victory with the flag coming down. And it's something that my collaborators and I fought for, something that my father and mother fought against, my grandfather, long line of activists in my family who fought against Confederate ideology, symbolism. I'm here to tell you today, I bear witness that change is happening. Sometimes it feels like when you're close to the struggle that change isn't happening or it's just too slow. When I saw that flag come down, it showed me that change is possible. And if it can happen in Mississippi, it can happen across America and across the world. Because Mississippi is a microcosm of our nation. Police exoneration and mass incarceration. Black and brown bodies, a commodity. Mothers separated from babies, border policies. It's like our White House is painted in the Klan's ideology, and our leadership is exploiting white poverty. Keeping us separate and divided, gay versus straight, white versus black, based off of fear and far from the facts. See, I hail from a state called the mighty Mississippi, the land of unsolved murder mystery. I'm triggered by the trauma of my own family history. Because my dad, he was only 5 when the Klan drive by, bust bullets into his house with 6 children inside. On the back of the truck, a Confederate flag flying high, and these are the truths that they chose to deny. See, Mississippi, like America, eats your child and mine. The white supremacist lies, a prison of your own design. Some forfeited their humanity in order to deny mine. White supremacy is a lie. Some have accepted it. A Confederate curse they inherited. Bigotry is blinding, and your fear of the other has blocked your own blessings from your sisters and brothers. Outrage, fatigue, I'm screaming, I can't breathe. From the top, it trickles down. From our judges to police. Because the illusion of freedom is far more dangerous than any jail cell or cramped cages. Yes, Mississippi is a microcosm of my nation, where cowards replace white sheets with fake avatars, repeating their parents' folklore, tooth fairy Santa Claus. The history is whitewashed. Google black codes and bylaws. In the comment section, sound off, sound off. Lord, they sound off. They call me the N-word, a B, and the like. Well, call me whatever you like, because I've been through worse in this fight, and the hatred in their words just proves that I'm right. Because Mississippi is a microcosm of a country that always needed me but never wanted me. My melanin and skin is a sin, sentenced to build your economy. Pack the prisons, fill the quota, make us felons, never voters. Travel bans and deportation, killer cops, no resignations. Just federal indictments and mock trials. See, my heart bleeds as the billboard reads, "Make America White Again," as my favorite rapper concedes. Kanye. Making me question everything that I believe. But still, I love America because I have hope. Some choose to jump ship, but some steer the boat. See, I know that love and humanity lives in the smile of every child, in the heart of every kid. So be brave enough to break the curse. We need you at the polls, out in droves, fighting against the bigots you oppose. Study law, run for office, make a call, write your Congress. Use your voice and choose a march. John Lewis is gone. Grab the torch.
Right.
Read a book. Write a rap. Just speak with truth and deal with facts, please. Freedom and justice are under attack, y'all. Alt-right affiliation of Trump's administration, Confederate infiltration, neo-Nazi showing faces. Just fueling the fear and the hatred while expanding their corporations. Do you see now how Mississippi is a microcosm of our nation? I'm Genesis B, y'all. Thank you.
One of the highlights of being on the Vote Common Good tour is I get to follow Genesis B all around the country, which is just the greatest. Hey, we're finishing up. And if you don't already have a Love and Politics pledge card in your hand, we'd love for you to have one. They look like this. So these little bookmarks. Brady and Raquel will be handing those around if you don't have one of those. We ask people to take this Love and Politics pledge. Put your hand up if you don't have one, if you wouldn't mind, and they'll give one to you. Here's what it is. This is not a pledge for politicians. This is a pledge for voters. See, what it's going to say on the one side is, I will call on all elected leaders to comport themselves in ways consistent with love in their political and public lives. We don't think it's too much to ask anybody who wants to represent you that they would act in a way of love when they do so. We don't think that's too far to ask. Love isn't what you keep in the house. It's not what you keep in the church. It's not what you keep in the synagogue or the mosque. Love is a public commodity that needs to be traded every time we practice our politics. Second commitment from you is that you will support with your voice and with your encouragement all leaders who do so. You don't have to vote for them, but tell them thank you when they act in a way of love. And the third is that you will stand up to and call for a change from all elected leaders when they violate the standard of love, whether in your party or in someone else's. That we remind one another that we have a higher standard when we talk about justice and freedom and love. And fourthly, that you will call on all elected officials to hold one another accountable. No more of this passing the buck by saying, well, I wouldn't tweet it that way. So this is the commitment we ask. And then we have up there on that flag and on the backside, the definition of love from the book of 1 Corinthians. And we think this is a pretty good one. So would you stand up with me and say this one out loud? I say part of the love thing, and then you say the word that goes with it. It's really fun. It's our call response part of the thing. And you know we're almost done because you're standing up and you can just walk to your car now. So it goes like this. Love is patient. And love is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not boast. Love is not proud. Love does not dishonor others. Love is not self-seeking. Love is not easily angered. Love keeps no record. Love does not. Love and love and love and love and love.
Always perseveres.
Now look, Joe Biden's not a perfect candidate. We don't need a perfect candidate. And the president's not going to solve all of our problems, but the president shouldn't be the problem.
Right.
And when you watch how this current president functions and you compare it to this definition of love, it just feels to me that on a daily basis, we're getting a daily dose of the opposite of love.
Right.
And that's what this whole thing is about. Now look, the polls are going to go our way. You're going to hear polls. I'm telling you, our organization runs polls on religious voters. There's some really good news. But look, I come from Minnesota, and when a car gets stuck in Minnesota in the snow, maybe this happens here in Ohio. Do you get enough snow that it comes up to the tires? You get enough snow that when the car gets stuck, you have to rock it? and you start to push it back and forth, and somebody puts it into drive, and then they put it in reverse, and you're rocking it, and it's going to get in that little rut, and just the time you feel like the car is going to pop out of the rut. If you're from Minnesota, everybody knows that everyone yells, "Now we push!" Because if you stop, it slows right back into the rut. This is our time to push. They're on the run, it's the time to chase. So get out there, find your neighbors, find a song, write a rap, put up a yard sign, send a postcard, write a post, remind one another you're in it with them, and then we've got our work to do. Look, Election Day is not the finish line. What is it? It's the starting line. It's the day when we get busy and start dealing with the things that are stuck in this country. So Mia and Mario are probably coming up behind me. Oh, there they are. They're coming up behind me. They sing us on our way out. It's really fun. We really appreciate you being with us tonight. Thank you so much for being here. And if you have any friends in Cincinnati, tell them we're coming to see them tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Thanks for being here.
That's right. We're all children of the civil rights movement, one way or another. These are the words of great civil rights leader, Ella Baker. A group named Sweet Honey in the Rockies to sing this. And you can join me if you're so moved. It's called Ella's Song. It goes like this. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Until the killing of black men, black mother's son is as important as the killing of white men, white mother's son. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Not needing to clutch for power, not needing the light just to shine on me. I need to be just one in the number as we stand against tyranny. To me, young people come first. They have the courage where we fail. If I can just shine a light on as they carry us through the gale. Come on! We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Come on now. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Break it down over here. Come on. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. Sing it if you mean it. If you really mean it. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Come on now. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. I know you mean it because you're here. We who believe in freedom cannot